The party was arranged the way my family arranged everything, efficiently, generously, without curiosity. White tablecloths. A rented room near campus with windows that showed a parking lot pretending to be a view. People hugged me with the careful enthusiasm reserved for milestones that belong more to photographs than to memory. I'd learned to be calm in rooms like this. Calm was not an emotion, it was a posture. You held it the way you held a glass, upright, steady, nothing spilled. My father stayed near the drinks. He liked to position himself where he could be useful. He poured, refilled. Made jokes about how long it had been since he'd had champagne. That wasn't warm by the time it reached his hand. When I passed him, he kissed my cheek and said he was proud of me. The way he always did, looking over my shoulder as if the sentence required witnesses. I noticed the powder because it didn't belong to anything else. It wasn't sugar. It dissolved too quickly. It wasn't dust, it had intention. He tipped his wrist toward my flute, casual, practiced. The movement of someone who has learned how to make additions look like accidents. The first feeling was not fear. It was clarity. A narrow, cold clarity that rearranged the room without changing a thing. I remember thinking, almost politely, so this is what you do. There are moments when time becomes generous. This was one of them. I had enough of it to understand what confrontation would buy me. Noise, disbelief, the old theater of him being misunderstood. I had enough of it to feel the weight of silence, how it could erase me if I let it. I picked up the glass. The champagne looked normal. Everything does. Right up until it doesn't. My sister was laughing nearby, holding court with a group of cousins, her cap crooked, her confidence borrowed from the day. We are close in the way siblings are close when they've learned to loyalty like a resource. I walked toward her and held the glass out. Try this, I said, smiling. It's good. I didn't explain. Explanation would have been a warning, and I wasn't warning anyone. I was choosing. She took it without looking, mid-sentence. The way people do when the world feels safe. She drank half, then finished it. I turned away before my father could read anything in my face. I watched a plant near the window instead, its leaves waxy and unbothered. Nothing happened at first. The room continued. Applause for a toast. A phone camera clicking. My sister's laugh landing slightly off its mark the next time it tried. When she swayed. It was subtle enough that only someone who knew her would see it. She steadied herself on the back of a chair, blinked, smiled too wide. Someone asked if she was okay. She said she was fine. She was always fine. A campus nurse was there because the venue required it for events with alcohol. She moved the way professionals move, no urgency that invites panic. No softness that invites dismissal. She asked my sister to sit. She asked what she'd had to drink. She asked when. My father appeared beside them, suddenly attentive. Explaining too much. He reached for the empty flute and the nurse gently, unmistakably, took it from him. I'll handle this, she said. Authority is not loud when it's real. It doesn't need a stage, it needs a process. They tested the glass, they asked questions that had nowhere to hide. A campus official joined them, then security, not dramatic. Just present. My father's voice tightened around its edges. He tried offense, he tried silence. None of it worked. Because none of it addressed the thing that had happened. My sister was fine in the end. Whatever it was made her dizzy, nauseous, frightened. The nurse explained risks and next steps in a tone that did not invite negotiation. My sister cried once, a small sound that embarrassed her more than it should have. I sat beside her and held her hand. My calm cracking just enough to let warmth through. No one asked me why I'd handed her the drink. Not then. The questions moved toward my father with a gravity that felt overdue. He left with security. His coat folded over his arm as if this were a mild inconvenience he would correct later. The party thinned. People went home early, carrying stories that would flatten and sharpen with retelling. I stayed long enough to thank the nurse. Long enough to hug my sister and promise to call in the morning. Long enough to collect my diploma cover and my bag. Outside, the air was cool and ordinary. I stood for a moment without moving, letting the day find its size again. I did not feel victorious. I felt intact. Later, alone, I thought about the line I had crossed. I had not saved myself by exposing him. I had saved myself by refusing to be the one who absorbed it. That distinction mattered more than I expected. My father texted once that night. A sentence about misunderstandings. About family. I didn't answer. Silence, used correctly, is not a weapon. Weeks passed, my sister recovered her ease. We did not speak about the party unless someone else brought it up. And then only in the language of facts. The relationship with my father did not explode. It thinned, became procedural. Holidays were negotiated, conversations stayed shallow. Safety, I learned, is sometimes maintained not by repair but by distance. I still think about the glass sometimes, the way it looked harmless, the way choice sat in my hand like weight. I don't congratulate myself. I don't punish him in my head. I carry the knowledge forward, professionally, calmly. There is a kind of power that doesn't announce itself. It waits, it chooses. And when it moves, it leaves fewer scars than you'd expect and more truth than you asked for.